Hey lads, this is Spitfire bringing you a video sponsored by EA. I will show you some footage from an early version of two maps from upcoming Turning Tides DLC, Cape Helles and Achi Baba, and a game type making its return to Battlefield series, Conquest Assault. Turning Tides DLC is planned to be released to main game in December, while members of Community Test Environment will get a chance to help with development and improvements starting from this Tuesday. What you're going to see in this video will become available to CTE members on that day. The objective of the upcoming CTE release is to get feedback on how the mode works on these new maps and to test client and server performance. Improvements to weapons or the new mode are not the main focus for now. Now, while a Colibri chap is being made, let's talk about development. Both maps are currently a work in progress. We have played when they were in a stage of so-called white box environment. Some of you might have seen it before, either during BF4 Alpha or in early stages of testing of Operation Outbreak in CT and BF4. So, what does it mean? Basically, white box environment is the map which doesn't have the final versions of textures. However, things like quite accurate representation of terrain shape, placement of buildings, visual cover like for example bushes, that's already in place. So it's possible to get a pretty good feel for how the map actually plays. Now, it's time to talk about maps themselves. What you've seen so far is Cape Helles, map based on events of main Allied landing at Gallipoli Peninsula in late April 1915. Historically, the landing was a complete disaster. Landing forces were massacred by well-entrenched Ottoman defenders, and while the Allies have managed to establish a small foothold, overall the landing failed miserably. The attacking forces never even managed to capture objectives that they were supposed to take on the day of landing itself. In the games we've played, the Allies were represented by the British Empire. That includes the much requested Anzac units, although instead of being a separate faction, they play the role of medics for the British Empire. Now I'm going to talk a bit about both the map itself and Conquest Assault, as both subjects are closely tied to each other. I will start from explaining the latter. Last time we've seen Conquest Assault was in Back to Karkand expansion pack for Battlefield 3. This time the concept is quite similar. One of teams starts with all the flags but no HQ, so in that case the Ottomans, so it can only spawn on flags, squad mates or certain vehicles, bombers, or if Ottomans are losing heavily, Dreadnought. The other team starts with 250 tickets and has the HQ. In case of Cape Helles, that is the British side, with the transport ship as its HQ. The game can end in two ways. Either one of teams reaches 1000 tickets, or the team without HQ, so Ottomans, loses all objectives and all its soldiers are killed, resulting in victory of attackers. One thing that has to be kept in mind is that we've played with the, kind of old scoring system that was used in past battlefields. Only team with flag majority gained tickets from flag control. Time-wise, at this stage, rounds lasted anywhere from 7-8 to over 45 minutes. The shortest rounds happened when the British quickly took all the enemy flags. Speaking of flags, here's their layout. Flags can be divided into three main groups: beachhead flags A, B, and C, back flags E, F, and G, and D flags serving as middle point. A, B, and C tend to get the most attention, especially in the first couple of minutes. With little cover on A, which is closest to British spawn, it's tough to pull off a successful early attack there, despite the presence of landing crafts, torpedo boats, and planes, two per side. However, the real key flags are E, F, and G. As soon as the British get out of three of those, which usually is achieved either by flanking boats or passengers bailing from planes, the Ottomans usually start having some pretty major trouble with holding the line, which can quickly turn into complete disaster for them. Flags on Cape Helles support a wide variety of playstyles. A and B are perfect for LMGs and medic rifles. C and D offer many short lines of fire for assaults, while area around E, F, and G has quite a few areas with very good view, thus making life of scouts and medics easier. If you're worried about planes being too much of a problem on this map, I have some information that should calm you down. First of all, flight ceiling is quite low, which forces pilots to make more obvious attacks, which can be better countered by gunfire, which by the way also does more damage to planes at the moment thanks to the overall weapon damage rebalance, which also in a way buffed damage down to planes. On top of that, assaults got a certain new gadget, which can do pretty heavy damage to planes, although I'm going to talk more about it later. Now, it's time to move on to Achi Baba. Remember that day 1 objective of invasion that I mentioned before? Yep, that's it. With those hills under Allied control, the attackers could have pushed further down Gallipoli Peninsula and eventually attacked towards Constantinople. The thing is, Ottomans managed to hold on to Achi Baba. Well-hidden machine gun and artillery nests rained death both on landing Allied soldiers and the ones who would try to attack Achi Baba itself. This time we have played Standard Conquest instead of Conquest Assault, although we still use the flag majority ticket blitz system. Unlike in case of Cape Helles, Achi Baba has 5 flags whose layout on the map is more or less M-shaped. Thanks to multiple, small, inaccessible hills and layout of cover, such as trenches, most of flags have pretty clear-cut approach routes. Fortunately, flags generally have quite a few of them, so the risk of a team getting bottlenecked is minimal unless it loses all objectives. The end flags, A and E, offer relatively few approach routes, which makes them easier to defend, which obviously helps the team that has their HQ on that side. Attackers are limited to a couple of routes, but defenders can both try to push back from the flag or flank from HQ spawn. B flag is a small section of a trench with a bit of terrain around it. Unlike in case of C flag from Cape Helles, there is some visual cover in form of bushes, so avoiding the trench is a possibility, although it's quite risky and probably I wouldn't recommend it. C flag can be attacked from pretty much any other flag quite easily. It's an artillery position, which means that majority of cover is provided by artillery pieces and rocks. It certainly is one of tougher flags to hold. Meanwhile, D flag is the biggest objective on the map. It covers a spread out section of ruins and is a great spot for scouts and medics who have multiple long lines of fire. Despite its size, it is not too difficult to defend thanks to some open ground that attackers usually have to cover. All in all, my thoughts about this map are quite positive. Shape of terrain combined with approach routes means that every class can find an area they excel in, and flanking attacks are very viable. Now, let's talk about new weapons. There are 7 of them, 6 guns and 1 gadget. I will start from the gadget that you can see now, the flak rocket gun. Like normal version, it has 4 projectiles and you have to reload it after every shot. Its damage to infantry and to boats is not great, so you might wonder why would I even use it? Well, here's the thing, it does crazy amount of damage to planes. 27 to bombers, 36 to attack planes, 45 to fighters. It also does damage to pilots, damages wings. And on top of that, it has a proximity fuse that will detonate near the plane as if you're using the entire gun. On Cape Helles, that weapon was great against some really good pilots. Now, let's move on to new assault guns. First of them is the Assault's Steyr M1912/P16 machine pistol. This weapon is based on Support's sidearm, Repetir Pistolet M1912. Compared to it, however, it has some massive differences. It has an extended magazine containing 16 rounds, which is reloaded in a similar way to Pilot and Tanker C96 carbine. Whenever possible, an 8-bullet clip will be put in, and then if less than 8 bullets are missing, the gun will be reloaded bullet by bullet. All in all, it makes the reload quite slow. This machine pistol also comes with a stock and overall is very easy to control and is very accurate for an assault weapon, both when aiming down sights and in hip fire. That results in an extremely deadly package thanks to its insane rate of fire. While stats did not give information about it yet, it's quite safe to assume that it's at least similar to Automatico, and based on my use of it, I'm fairly confident it's even higher, probably about 1000. As it is now, it has potential to be the ultimate close combat weapon, as long as you manage to stick to 1v1s. You will eat through your 16 bullets in a flash, and as I mentioned, reload takes a while. The other new assault gun is a C96 carbine with 40 bullet box magazine. If you've ever used the 20 bullet version, you mostly know what to expect in terms of damage. When it comes to control, this gun has almost no recoil, so you can adjust easily while firing. It might not do the most damage, but it offsets it with its accuracy. Compared to other C96 versions, its reload is also way faster thanks to being able to just replace the magazine, instead of reloading with clips and bullets. The new medic gun is the Farger Hill rifle, which comes in optical and stone versions. It uses the 303 cartridge and is fed from a 20-round drum mag. It fires at 300 rounds per minute and is very easy to control. Up to 35 meters it deals 40 damage, and afterwards its damage output rapidly falls all the way down to 28. So it appears to be a medic rifle with a roll that is the closest to current retail version of, say, Rigati. You have to remember about reload though. Sure, it has a replaceable drum magazine, but the replacement process is very slow, so better. Now you're looking at the real classic, Browning M1917 for support. It's similar to Perino in many ways, same rate of fire, similar control. However, it deals more damage past 30 meters while having twice as much ammo. It's fed by a 250 round chest. Obviously, unlike in case of Perino, the reload is extremely sluggish, which helps balance both of those guns against each other. It comes in two versions, low weight and telescopic. That's another difference compared to Perino. Now, before I introduce the new scout weapons, just keep in mind I am not really a good scout. Anyway, the two new scout weapons are the Arisaka Type 38, which you can see now, and the Carcano. I'll try to provide a bit of information about both. The Arisaka is using a fixed magazine and is reloaded either by a 5-round clip or round by round. Its sweet spot appears to be 30 to 60 meters, thus putting it a bit closer than its counterpart in SMLE. Its rate of fire is 58, which would make it faster than any turnbolt rifle that currently is in the game. All in all, it appears to be a pretty well-rounded close to mid-range rifle. Although speaking of close-range rifles, there is also the Carcano. As it is now, it is easily the most close combat-oriented scout rifle besides 1895 Trench and 1903 Experimental. The weapon we got to play with looks like the carbine version of the Carcano Modello 1891, the main Italian bolt-action rifle of the Great War. It is fed by 6-round en-bloc clips loaded into fixed magazine. Both its rate of fire and damage model are pretty peculiar. 80 rounds per minute places it ahead of Gewehr M95, but well behind 1895 Trench. Just like those two rifles, Carcano doesn't have a sweet spot. Instead, its damage model appears to be middle point between M95 and 1895 Trench. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to check if it's capable of killing enemies with a single headshot on long range. That's something that will certainly come up in CT at some point. So that's it for today. Make sure to play the new maps once they go live in CTE, and also please remember to submit feedback at Battlefield Live subreddit, and submit any bugs you find at bftracker.com. See you soon.